Hi, this is PD at BurgZerg Arcade at BurgZergArcade.com, and this is tutorial 198. So where we left off, let's just go ahead and open up Unity as soon as I find it. We're actually working on loading up our stats, and the next step was vitals. And I remember I'm making a comment down here. Yes, so we have to call the update on a vital before, let's see if we head back into the old vitals right here. Yeah, we had to call the update before we called the current value, or at least assign the current value. And if we look at our vitals class, it's because the current value checks to see if it's greater than the adjusted base value, and if it is, then it's equal to the adjusted base value. And if we go down to the base stat, I believe, yes, adjusted base value is just your base value plus buffed. So let me see. We'll go back into the original. Well, let's just start working on it. I'm just going to cut and paste all this in, because I know I'm going to need all of it. And I'm going to put this in the load part. And we're going to need to create a new vital to return. So let's say vital, I'll just call it temp, is equal to new vital. And I'm going to return this new vital, which will be temp. And let's just start indenting this. So we're going to be assigning to a vital dot base value. And we're going to go through the player's pref, load an integer. We have to change this to name. Actually, it's completely changed now. We still want the to string part. Actually, we've got it up here. We'll just copy and paste up here. The only difference will be, instead of being a tribute name, it's vital name. So let's cut down a little bit on the typos, hopefully. So I'll just make sure everything lines up right. I'll switch this first. So we need one more parentheses over here to balance it out. And we're going to grab the base value. Then we're going to come down here and assign this to vital as well. If only I could spell. Alright. And we're calling the get vital experience to level, which shouldn't be right. We should just have to do experience to level. I'm sorry, these are temp. Yeah, it's early in the morning for me. We had a late night last night. So experience to level is going to be equal to this. And name, of course, is the vital name that we're passing in. And now here we want to make sure we call the update. We're calling the update on the vital itself, so we should be able to say temp.update. And while I'm here, well, let's not add the buffing part in yet, because we're going to be getting into that soon, but not quite yet, so let's just leave it out for now. And here as well, we can just replace temp. And vital name, this should be switched to name. I guess it'd be easier if I would have changed the variable here to CNT, but everything there looks fine. We're going to assign a value of 1 for the current value if there's none, and 0 up here for the defaults. So everything there looks fine. We can just come down here and make a loop. I'm going to get rid of this comment now. And well, we're going to make an array of vitals. So I'm going to keep this part. We'll delete this. We'll just say new vital, and then we need a length. And we did the exact same thing up here. We're loading our attributes. Right here. And of course, one thing we have to change in here is what type of enumeration we're looking for. So we'll just go in, we'll paste this in, and change attribute name to vital name. So I'll save that off, and next will be the loop. So your basic for loop. And we're calling this, well, let's not call it ATT anymore. Let's just call it vital. And make sure to increase our counter. Save that off. Whoops, I scrolled. And now all we want to do is call this function up here where we're actually loading the vital. And yes, I'm aware that I'm doing the load vital before the save vital this time. And we'll want to make sure that we're assigning it to vital and then the index that we're at, which is our CNT variable. And let me see, we want to pass in the name. So again, there's some more code up here. We can just cut and paste. And let's come down, put this down right here. And of course, we're not looking for an attribute name, we're looking for a vital name. And that should be it for the loop, so let's get rid of that. And then we're going to return vital. Now, of course, later on when we have the static class for our player character, we won't actually have to return anything. We can assign it directly to our player class, but for now we're doing it this way because, well, our player character isn't static. So I'm just going to save that off. We're going to head back into Unity, and just to make sure there's no errors. None popping up. Okay, now I'm going to do the save vital part. So let's come up here. Here's where we save one vital. So we'll just come in, we'll scroll up, and look for the part where we actually save a vital. So there's three things we saved. And we didn't save, let me see, just look at the part that's commented out. And this is where we're saving our modifiers. That's right, because we don't need to save the modifiers because they're saved with, they're actually part of the game code. So we'll just come up here where it says save vital. I'll just post that directly in. We'll tab it in a bit just to clean things up. And we're being passed a vital and a vital name. So this becomes name. And of course, if you don't want to change it, you can actually just change the vital name variable up here to CNT. Either way, I'm just going to keep it name because it makes it a little more readable later on. And then the actual value, which we can replace with the actual vital variable up here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to cut and paste. There we go. Now let's do the saving of multiple vitals here. And again, since we've done save attributes up here, well actually it's just one loop go through, so we'll just do that. I just like to cut and paste. If I've already done the code and know it works and I know there's very few adjustments that need to be made, I usually just cut and paste it. So we'll use it as a template. We'll come down here to where we're saving multiple vitals, and we'll just go through and change it. So vital length, save attribute according to vital name, CNT is the counter, and we're not getting the attribute anymore, we're doing the vital. Alright, so that should be okay with that. So we should have our vitals done. Let's just go see if there's any errors. There are some. So the best old enough to match game settings to attribute name, attribute. Okay, so I have some errors. Just because I'm not doing save attribute, I'm doing save vital. So let me just take a quick look. I don't see anything else, so we'll just come back, and there they go. So let's head back into MonoDevelop, and we'll just head over to our character generator and add that function. So game settings to dot save vitals. It's not showing up. Let's check the name over here. And this was supposed to be plural. Just check the one up here. It's singular. So save that off and we'll try it again. And there's save vitals. And we're going to want to pass in tune dot, I believe it's just vital. Yes. And let me just check that to make sure that was part of our base character. And it's right here. And let's actually add the skill line in as well, but we'll comment it out. So I'll come down here and say game settings to dot save skills, just so I don't have to look it up after. So tune dot skill, and we'll comment this out, and we'll add our debug code. We're no longer doing a tribute, we're doing a vital. And we're going to load vitals now. And when we come through here, variable is still called temp. So we got one more thing we're going to add here, and that's our current value. So temp, the index, and then current value. And we're getting an error here. It's because we forgot the plus sign right there. So we'll save that off. We'll head back into Unity. And there's no errors, so let's start it up and let's give it a try. And I'll raise his willpower a little bit so he gets a little bit of mana. And I'll just roll the rest in Constitution. And let's just hit next. And we're getting 0, 40, 0. 40 is the experience level, which should be right. But the zeros don't look right, so let's stop that. I'm just going to quickly check. Actually, let's see what's being saved first. So I'll open it up again. And if we come in, we have our base value. The current value is being saved as 110. The experience to level is 40. The base value itself is not being saved. Actually, yes it is, because the base value actually is 0. That's when we raise it, it gets a point. Let me just go ahead and check in our script again. I'm actually going to close this first. So we're in MonoDevelop. Just to make things a little easier, right before we call this, I'm actually going to comment these out. And let me just put a space here so I know where the new stuff starts. And right before here, I'm going to call player prefs dot delete all. This way here I only have my vital keys that I'm looking for in my plist. or the registry, depending what system you're working on. And it should make it a little easier to find things in there. So we'll hit next, and we'll get the exact same thing, even though it is showing us that it is saving part of it. So let me load this back up. And here we go, we only have our vitals in there. So it is saving a current value, but it's not loading it. So let's just go back into the script and take a look. So we'll come in, go to Game Settings 2, and well, the first thing I notice is that I'm not using my strings up here. So, well, we'll start by doing that. This is supposed to be base value. Because I should have cut and paste. This is experience to level. And this is current value. And we'll do the same down here. We'll have to do the same right here as well. And I believe that's it. There's really only two we have to play around with. I'll save that off. I'm going to head back into Unity. I'll start it back up and let's try it again after I clear this. And we'll throw a bunch into Constitution since that affects two different stats. And some willpower. And we'll hit next. And it's still not loading up properly. Let me go check to make sure that everything's still saving right. And it is. Okay, we'll head back into our script. And let's throw some debugs in to figure out what's going on here. Now our vitals seem to be saving okay. It's actually in the loading of the vitals that doesn't seem to be working right. So let me go down to load vitals first. And we're saying that we're creating an array here of type vital, well, vital names. So that should be fine. We're going in and iterating through. We're calling load vital, passing in the vital name. And it returns an actual vital. Okay, so let's go up to the actual load vital. Which is right up here. So we're creating a new vital. We're assigning its base value to be equal to this, whatever's saved as the vital name. And concatenating on our base value, which is right. Experience level shouldn't actually be a default of 0. It should be actually some number. The way we have the experience system working, it adds a certain percentage to it, and a certain percentage of 0 is always going to be 0, but we'll fix that later. Let's work on the bug we have now. We're calling update, and let me just take a look at update just to make sure we know exactly what it's doing here. So if we come over here, we'll just grab update, which just calls calculate mod values right now. Which is up here, so our mod values equals 0, and it goes through and it grabs all the different mod values. Okay. And while I'm here, I'm just going to check out adjusted base value. Alright, so we'll come back in. And then we're doing our temp.curveValue. So this is the value that is not loading right. So I'm going to throw some debugs in here. And we're going to say base, and then I'm just going to concat this in. And I'm also going to check out experience to level, which, well, we know it is loading, but this one is not. So I'm going to grab this one. I'm actually going to change my base value to 1. Whoops. Actually, no, let's just leave it at 0. Let's just get this current value working right. And in here, I'm just going to say cur. And then we can cat onto that the player pref value. And I'm just going to save that off and we'll go try it out. So I'll start it up. Let's hit clear. And we'll raise some values. And then hit next. So they actually are loading up right. Base, current value 41. So it's actually in our debug log statement that it doesn't seem to be working right. So let me take a look here. We know this is working. So I'm going to get rid of these. The error appears to be over here. Oops. We'll scroll down. And let me see here. We're setting up an array of vitals, which is calling load vitals. Then we iterate through the length. It should be working. Let me just actually pause this video and I'll take a look. I really want to put out a 30-minute video, but I'll be back when I find the error. Alright, I figured out what was wrong. When we're calling our temp update, which is inherited, which is our skill, or sorry, our vital, and the update function in the vital, which is inherited from modified stat, it goes down and let me see, update right here calls calculate mod values. There was more things we're going to be adding in here as we go along, but for now the only thing we have is calculate mod values. And of course that comes up here and it sets your mod value to be equal to 0. Then it goes through and it checks to see how many modifying stats you have. If you have at least one, it goes through and figures out the ratio of whatever your primary attribute was supposed to be and adds that to some sort of modifier to your vital. And we actually set this up in base character. If we come down to, we'll go to start here where we set up our primary attributes and we set up vitals and skills. And if we go down to set up vitals, right here, we notice we're calling set vital modifiers. Set up vital modifiers, which is right here. So the actual vital itself doesn't have access to any of this information, so its vital is always going to be 0. So if we actually open up the vital class again, and we'll notice here that when we're assigning the current value, it checks, it compares it against the adjusted base value, and if it's greater than the adjusted base value, it simply assigns the adjusted base value to be, our current value. And I guess we're going to need base stat to look at adjusted base value, or modified stat, I believe. Adjusted base value, right here. Our adjusted base values consist of our base value plus our buff value plus our mod value. We don't have any buffs going on right now, so that's a 0. And our mod value is actually going to be calculated as a 0 because we don't have any of this here in there. So it actually, the code itself is working. It's just always coming back as 0. And to figure this out, let me go back to game settings 2. I knew I was getting my base value, my experience to level value right. I actually went up into our save vital function and told it to save 10 as the base value, and it was loading up properly, and that's when I noticed that my current value was coming back as 10. And if we run the code the way it is right now, I have it debugging out what it's loading, and then I have it debugging out what's actually being saved. So let's go back into Unity and we'll run this. And I'll put a name in. I'm just going to hit clear. It just makes it a little easier to read the debug logs. And I'm just going to put it all in Constitution. It really doesn't matter what you put it in. And we hit next. And if we look, it says the current value that's saved, that is being loaded, actually is 60, but the value saved in our variable is 0. And it goes through all the different stats. And there's our stamina and our mana. So in our next tutorial, we're actually going to go ahead and come into our game settings 2 and create an instance of our player character, and we'll work off of that. That'll suffice for now until we actually get our player character converted over to being a static class. But anyway, that'll be in the next tutorial, and I'll see everyone then. Bye-bye.